welcome to the deep dive. Today we are cracking open a subject that is, well, it's constantly under scrutiny, it's frequently celebrated, and almost always fiercely judged.
We're talking about relationships defined by a significant difference in age.
Exactly. And the stack of source material we have in front of us is pretty incredible.
It's a stunningly comprehensive collection.
Yeah.
We are covering the entire spectrum here. We're going from these deeply personal stories of love and, mortality, complex caregiving.
Right, all the way through to the very public realm of celebrity culture, the massive backlash against new reality TV shows.
And even controversial legal fights and the just explosive growth of age gap romance fiction.
So our mission today isn't just to summarize these stories. We really want to understand why these relationships attract such an intense spotlight, such an incredible amount of societal stress.
What is it about intergenerational romance that, both fascinates and kind of repels us at the same time?
And maybe most importantly, what profound connections, what intense sacrifices, and what surprising moments of self-discovery are these couples finding when they decide to step outside the lines?
I think we have to begin where society always does, which is the public narrative. The celebrities, they're the ones who force us to confront these age differences, in our living rooms.
Totally. And we are culturally pretty familiar with the older man, younger woman trope.
Oh, absolutely.
Think of Michael Douglas and Catherine Zeta-Jones. That's a 25-year gap. They're kind of the benchmark, right?
They are. And that dynamic, while it might get some whispers about power or wealth, it's achieved a sort of cultural normalization.
It aligns, I guess, historically with traditional gender and economic roles.
But the sources make it so clear that the intensity of that judgment, it just spikes the moment you invert that dynamic.
The older woman and the younger man.
That's where the social stress really, really mounts.
The perfect example is Ashton Kutcher and Demi Moore. They had a 15-year gap. And their relationship, it basically popularized the label cougar.
A term that instantly carries this, negative connotation. It implies predation or desperation, right? Even though their connection at the time was clearly based on genuine attraction.
Exactly. The reversal challenges the very foundation of that traditional relationship contract.
What do you mean by that?
Well, the assumption that the older established male provides the resources and the stability, while the younger female provides youth and, fertility. When the woman is older, society just struggles to assign roles.
And that leads directly to these harsher labels.
And yet we have these really powerful counterexamples that just defy all that cynicism. I mean, look at the director Sam Taylor Johnson and actor Aaron Taylor Johnson.
A 24-year age difference.
And they are one of the most long-term successful couples in Hollywood. Their relationship has survived way past that initial media frenzy.
I think the core insight here, and it comes right out of the sources, is that age gap relationships, they fundamentally challenge what society believes a real relationship looks like.
They violate a deeply ingrained, almost unconscious norm.
And that violation, as you said earlier, is costly. It's really costly.
It's like their love has an extra tax on it. An additional layer of emotional labor and resilience is just required for them to exist.
Yeah, we're talking about managing immense external stress, while at the same time you're trying to nurture this deeply personal connection.
And we need to get into the mechanics of that tax. It's not just an abstract idea.
No, it manifests as very specific social sanctions. Judgment from strangers, family disapproval, the constant application of these, frankly, dehumanizing labels.
It forces these couples to build relationships that are often, hidden away or just fiercely defended.
Simply because the world outside is so ready to tear them down.
And the public's obsession with this tax and the defiance needed to overcome it is now fueling a whole new cycle of media.
Which brings us directly into the world of reality television and the booming romance novel market.
The media knows this is a lightning rod topic.
Oh, yeah. And nothing targets a lightning rod quite like a new reality show. Let's unpack this massive new media experiment coming from Netflix. It's scheduled for 2026, and it's called Age of Attraction.
So this show is designed to be the ultimate controlled test. It's aiming to isolate the age factor in dating.
How are they doing that?
They have singles ranging from 22 all the way up to 59. And here's the hook. They date one another without initially knowing the other person's age.
So it's very explicitly Love is Blind, age gap edition.
That's the pitch. And what makes this even more compelling and, controversial is the choice of hosts.
Right. It's Nick Viall, who is 44, and his wife, Natalie Joy, who is 26.
They share an 18-year age gap themselves. which immediately gives them a pretty vested interest in the show's outcome.
And the public reaction online was instantaneous
Oh,
and harsh.
oh yeah. The sources cited critics who immediately called the show gross and concerning. There was this huge debate about the hosts.
With many suggesting Vial was simply trying to, and this is a quote, justify his very concerning age gap to a mass audience.
It does raise a valid point about the monetization of stigma, doesn't it?
It does. Is the show genuinely trying to prove that love is edgeless, or is it trying to exploit the discomfort and the judgment society feels just to generate views?
To be fair, Vial has been very clear about the production's stated goal. He argues the show is meant to break down stereotypes.
So they want to force participants and the viewers to focus just on chemistry and compatibility.
Shared values, yeah. Rather than relying on preconceived notions based on a number, they really want to test if love truly is ageless.
But the very concept of isolating age, even to prove it's irrelevant, it only amplifies its significance.
Oh, so?
Well, if the show fails, it just reinforces the prejudice. But if it succeeds, the success will be framed as this, brave exception, not a new norm.
That's a great point. That contradiction is really central to this whole deep dive. Society wants to be progressive, but when the age gap gets wide, judgment is often just the default setting.
And if television is testing the limits of real-world acceptability,
then fiction has already blown right past those limits and embraced the taboo entirely.
Exactly, because right alongside this reality TV controversy, the age gap romance genre is absolutely exploding.
And that's driven largely by platforms like BookTok.
It's a huge, massively profitable genre. Its success just confirms that there is this profound appetite for exploring these exact power dynamics, these forbidden relationships in a safe, fictional space.
These novels capitalize heavily on passion, power, and yes, the spicy aspects of, transgressive love.
The tropes are so specific and really appealing. You have everything from the forced proximity scenario, like a 22-year age gap with a step-uncle in a book like Credence.
Right, to the darker, more dominant narratives you find in mafia romances, something like Stolen.
And let's not forget the classic power dynamic, the billionaire assistant setup, like in Mr. Masters.
The appeal of the silver fox, the mature, established man, is immense.
It is. He represents stability, experience, and this kind of decisive competence that often contrasts sharply with the uncertainty of dating someone your own age.
What's fascinating, though, is what the sources highlight about the intersectionality within the genre. It's not just about age.
Right, like in the BWWM stories Black Woman, White Man, the age gap trope is often used to explore these complex layers of race, power, and autonomy.
So that's a crucial distinction. In these stories, the age gap isn't just a hurdle to overcome.
No, it's a vehicle. The older, typically established man can represent a departure from societal expectations or peer pressure. It allows the younger partner to explore self-acceptance or success without the baggage of their immediate social circle.
It moves the story far beyond just steamy encounters and into territory exploring societal norms and even personal growth.
So we see the fictional appetite is huge.
But as we move into this next section, we see the real cost. These fictional tensions, they manifest as intense, damaging societal judgment in the real lives of these couples.
The emotional and sometimes even physical price of unconventional love is immense.
Yeah, we saw research that indicates couples where the older woman is paired with a significantly younger husband, they specifically violate social norms.
Which leads to social sanctions, a more stressful life, and potentially even reduced longevity for the older woman, just from the chronic stress.
And the labels are just relentless. And they're designed to dehumanize, frankly.
We hear cougar, a term one woman in the sources felt was equivalent to the word slut.
And the older man is immediately branded a sugar daddy, while the younger partner is a gold digger, regardless of their actual financial situation.
The label just erases the depth of the connection. It reduces a complex, multifaceted relationship to a simple, transaction-based exchange.
Which almost never reflects the reality, especially in committed long-term pairings.
So let's look at the defiance that's required to push back against all of that.
Let's start with the story of Richard and Emmy. They're a gay couple in Manchester with a 30-year age gap. Richard is 57, Emmy is 27.
And they faced just this intense, constant barrage of scrutiny.
It says they often encountered this hostility in Manchester's gay village. Emmy worked at a bar there, so he was directly in the firing line of public opinion.
Constantly faced with comments that he was a rent boy, or Richard was his sugar daddy.
And Richard found this so surprising. He noted he actually expected more backlash or, curiosity about the fact that they were an interracial couple,
But the age gap just completely overshadowed everything else.
which really highlights how deeply ingrained that taboo against age difference is. Even within communities you'd expect to be more accepting.
So how did they cope with it?
Their coping mechanism is fantastic. To manage the stares, the whispers, the comments, they developed an internal motto.
Okay.
It's LFW,
LFW.
which stands for look and fucking weep.
Wow, that's attitude.
It's an attitude of aggressive dismissal. They basically decided that the haters were just jealous of the authentic connection they'd found.
But that resilience, it comes at a cost. It shows that tax we talked about is very real.
Very real. Emmy specifically avoids speaking openly about the relationship within his Asian community because he knows the judgment would lead to catastrophic family fallout.
So their home becomes their sanctuary.
It's the only place they can fully relax without having to deploy the LFW motto or constantly defend their choice. The public sphere is a battlefield for them.
That is a profound sacrifice for a couple that's deeply in love.
Then there's another powerful case study in resilience. Norma and Chris. They have a 32-year gap. Norma is 68, Chris is 36.
And Chris met Norma when he was just 18. He said he found younger women immature and just instantly connected with Norma's life experience and maturity.
Their connection has been tested by extreme public hostility. Including being physically spat at by a passerby.
Just for holding hands in public.
Can you imagine the level of open, aggressive judgment required for a stranger to physically violate you just over who you choose to love?
And despite this, they remain fiercely committed. They insist on maintaining an immensely and frequently active sex life.
Which is a deliberate defiance of the stereotype, right? That relationships with older women lose their physical dimension. They're making a statement that their passion hasn't diminished just because the numbers have gotten larger.
And this is where the reality of the age gap hits with full force. Mortality.
Yeah, Norma has been struggling with serious health issues, which has forced them both to confront her age difference head-on.
And she's facing the future without apology and with meticulous preparation.
She has pre-planned her entire funeral, not just the big details, but the minute ones.
Like what?
She specified the exact photo she wants used, the one in the blue dress, and the specific hymns, Love Divine, All Loves Excelling, and The Lord is My Shepherd.
But the detail that truly captures the control and maybe some poignant humor in the face of this inevitable loss.
The horse-drawn carriage.
Yes, her insistence on a horse-drawn carriage because she wants the send-off to be classy.
It's her final act of agency, ensuring her life and her passing will be handled exactly how she chooses, defying the chaos and judgment that defines so much of their relationship.
It's also an incredibly detailed roadmap for Chris, the younger partner, to follow when she's no longer there.
It's a way for her to care for him even in her absence, providing structure during what will be a devastating time.
Now let's contrast their urban experience with the intensely physical life of Richard and Liz, the cattle haulers.
A 27-year age gap here. Richard is 50, Liz is 23. And they live 2047 in their truck, which they call Our House, hauling livestock across the country.
This is a life of constant proximity and really hard physical labor.
And Liz made huge sacrifices. She gave up her previous lifestyle, her social circle, her family, for this life in a semi-truck cab. But she says she wouldn't trade the time with Richard for anything.
And this specific context is key to fighting those gold digger accusations.
Oh, absolutely. When you live in a truck 24/7 hauling cattle, any illusion of a luxurious, transaction-based relationship is just instantly shattered.
Richard pushes back hard against the critics. He says if people think he's her sugar daddy, they're welcome to request a bank statement.
Which will show them there's literally nothing in our bank.
And it's not because she spent it. It's because they're working-class people living paycheck to paycheck.
Their financial situation just strips away the primary social argument used to invalidate these relationships. Their commitment is forged not through comfort or luxury, but through shared hardship and labor.
That kind of external pressure from family rifts to physical attacks to financial struggle, it just demonstrates the massive cost of choosing this kind of unconventional love.
And this brings us to our next section, where we examine the absolute edge cases, the relationships that violate not just social taboos, but the actual law.
Right. This is where the conversation turns to what society deems truly unthinkable, yet still happens.
Wow.
We're talking about the intense, committed relationship between first cousins.
We have the story of Angie and Michael.
Their bond started incredibly young. They clicked as best friends at ages 7 or 8. They felt this instant, deep connection.
And because their family kept them apart, they saw their early relationship through the lens of being Romeo and Juliet, a forbidden love they were destined to fight for.
Their legal situation is profoundly complex and dangerous.
Yeah, while first cousin marriage is legal in 19 U.S. states, they were married in Colorado but live in Utah, where it is strictly illegal.
And the sources clarify that just by having sexual relations in Utah, they risk being prosecuted and could face up to a 5-year jail sentence.
The pushback they faced was immediate and vicious. Relatives cut them off, calling it incest. They were kicked off the family Facebook page.
And it wasn't just familial, it was political. A Utah State Senator, Todd Weiler, publicly used the term icky to describe their relationship.
His rationale is important here. He linked the stigma to Utah's history with polygamy, suggesting the state doesn't want to amplify any relationships that challenge traditional marital norms.
It shows how past social controversies can be leveraged to police current definitions of legality and morality.
So, to combat the legal risk and the severe social stigma, they launched a petition to change Utah's law.
But they anchored their argument in science, specifically genetic testing. They had to address the primary fears surrounding cousin marriage: genetic defects in children.
This is a really nuanced point that you have to explain for the listener. The results showed that Angie is a carrier for cystic fibrosis, or CF.
Meaning she carries one copy of the gene but doesn't have the disease herself.
Right. And Michael, critically, was negative for all the tested defects.
So their interpretation of these results was key to their legal defense.
They argued that because Angie is only a carrier for a recessive condition like CF, and Michael doesn't carry it, passing the disorder to a child is genetically virtually impossible.
So they're arguing that since Michael had the perfect genes, their risk profile was actually lower than many unrelated couples.
It's a brilliant, if maybe slightly simplified, legal maneuver. They're leveraging their specific genetic profile to challenge a blanket ban that's rooted in statistical risk.
And they interpreted this finding as a green light to continue their fight and their life, even though they were already pregnant again, risking jail time for their fundamental choices.
Their persistence is extraordinary. Armed with their genetic data and nearly 2,000 petition signatures, it shows a commitment to challenging society's legal and moral norms on behalf of their love, regardless of the consequences.
Now, moving from the legal definition of taboo to the age-related definition, we encounter Hattie.
Hattie, an 83-year-old self-proclaimed boner queen and gilf who is radically redefining geriatric dating.
She is actively dating men 50 years her junior, like 33-year-old Sean. She's a fascinating case study in sexual liberation post-middle age.
She just refuses to accept the societal expectation that her sexual life should be over.
And her motivation is entirely focused on the quality of the connection. She says she dates younger men because they are fired up about what the future holds.
Which contrasts with older men who are often focused on past regrets or just slowing down.
And she also notes critically that younger men get off on getting a woman off, a key difference from the expectations she encountered in her earlier dating years.
She found this current lifestyle after struggling emotionally after her divorce at 55. She was deeply lonely, constantly praying for a man who would be with me forever.
So the dissonance between her intense sexual activity and this emotional yearning for a permanent commitment led to deep pain.
So she devised a coping mechanism. She describes it as a psychological surgical procedure.
She calls it a heartectomy, a way to deliberately cut the emotional connection between her heart and her body.
We should spend a moment on this concept because it's such a powerful metaphor for self-protection.
By performing this echinectomy, she's protecting herself against the inevitable loneliness and depression that comes with seeking permanence from partners who are younger and often not looking for marriage.
She essentially chose emotional autonomy over dependency. She decided she would enjoy life's pleasures, the company, the vitality, the sex without the depressive emotional fallout of seeking a commitment she knows is unlikely.
And she sees her rigorous exercise and self-care routine as fundamentally geared towards keeping me sexual, sensual, and gorgeous.
She is completely redefining aging on her own terms, proving desire doesn't have an expiration date and challenging the assumption that older women should be relegated to the role of mommy or granny.
She asserts that no one ever calls her those labels, which indicates her success in controlling her own narrative.
Our final edge case introduces a different kind of taboo, the sexual fetish, and how an accepting relationship can become the vehicle for profound self-acceptance.
Right, we're discussing Lamb, who is 23, and her partner Honey, who share the fetish sploshing.
For those who might not know, sploshing involves getting messy with wet substances, things like shaving cream, slime, paint, cake batter.
And Lamb's journey is particularly poignant because she experienced her first orgasm at age 9 while covering herself in shaving cream.
That moment must have been so confusing for her, particularly given her Catholic school education, which taught her that women don't orgasm and that sexual feelings outside of procreation were inherently wrong.
So she carried this secret and this confusion for years, believing she was fundamentally weird or broken.
She eventually found her partner, Honey, through a website that's dedicated to the fetish. And Honey, recognizing the depth of Lamb's secrecy and her need for validation, decided to take a major step.
She organized a messy slime birthday party to help Lamb come out about this side of herself to her friends.
This is so much more than just a party. It's a radical act of emotional vulnerability. Lamb was terrified about revealing a hidden part of her identity that she had associated with shame for decades.
And Honey provided constant support, urging Lamb to show her true colors because this was her life and she deserved to be accepted for all of it.
The most nerve-wracking part for Lamb was the reaction of her best friend, Summer.
Who, like many people would, found the concept strange.
But the relationship with Honey provided the framework for acceptance. The sources say that Summer, the best friend, cautiously engaged via baby steps.
Which involved getting pied on the butt.
Right. This slow, cautious introduction to sploshing was a form of radical acceptance for Lamb. The relationship with Honey wasn't just a pairing, it was a safe space that facilitated Lamb's integration of a long-hidden aspect of her full self.
So we've covered the celebrities, the reality TV, the romance novels, the outlaws, and the sexually liberated seniors.
Now we have to turn to the heaviest realities of age gap love. The sudden, non-negotiable interventions of mortality, health, and caregiving.
These are the moments that really strip away all the glamour and the controversy, revealing the depth of the commitment required.
We have the striking story of a 48-year-old man who had a heart attack while making love to his 26-year-old fiancée, Sarah. That's a 22-year gap.
That moment had to be terrifying, but it became a pivotal realization for him.
He was a long-time heavy smoker, 2 packs a day for 30 years, and he credits meeting Sarah with saving him from yourself because he finally had something precious to live for.
The insight came to him from his hospital bed, seeing Sarah, so focused and so certain, packing his overnight bag for the hospital.
Absolutely convinced he was coming home.
It forced him to realize that his life, even if he didn't value it himself, had significance for her. It was the ultimate wake-up call.
Forcing him to quit smoking and change his life dramatically.
And the health crisis forced them to face the difference in their expected timelines directly. Sarah acknowledged the reality that in 20 years, their situation would be dramatically different.
But for her, the foundation was what mattered more. She said, if in 20 years he's still my best friend, that's what matters.
And they married just 6 months after his heart attack, solidifying their commitment under the shadow of a near tragedy.
Sometimes the tables turn long before mortality is the central issue.
Yeah, look at Carol, who is 69, and Paul, who is 43. Carol is 26 years older, and she unexpectedly became Paul's full-time carer due to his significant diabetes and mental health issues.
This completely inverts the societal expectation. The older partner, Carol, is providing the primary physical care for the much younger partner, Paul.
Their life has changed dramatically. They both suffer from arthritis and rely on mobility scooters. They describe themselves affectionately as little and large.
Carol's wisdom here is really powerful. She admits that when you marry somebody, anything can happen. Illness doesn't respect age gaps or expectations.
And Paul's illness at a young age doesn't diminish their commitment. In fact, Paul emphasizes that Carol is the only person who keeps him strong and going.
It underscores that her experience and her stability are essential to his survival.
Then there's the profound and frankly heartbreaking story of Marion and Steve. Marion is 64, a cancer nurse, and Steve is 44.
When they got together, the implicit understanding was that Marion would likely face health issues first, and Steve, the younger man, would support her.
That assumption was just tragically inverted when Steve was diagnosed with terminal metastatic melanoma.
Suddenly, Marion, the older partner, was faced with the prospect of losing her husband decades before she ever expected.
And the age gap in this devastating scenario offered a deeply ironic advantage.
Marion's extensive professional knowledge as a cancer nurse became an invaluable source of support and expertise. She was uniquely equipped to navigate the brutal realities of his illness.
Their planning shifted from decades to months. They stopped buying long-term items. They are focused entirely now on creating memories.
Marion shared the heartbreaking detail that they only buy small bottles of aftershave now because, as she put it, he's not going to use it all.
That small bottle of aftershave, it's a devastating physical manifestation of their new reality.
It's a constant, tangible reminder that the clock is running out, forcing them to live so acutely in the present, constantly aware of that agonizing 2-week wait for scan results that could be game over.
These caregiving and health examples, they really highlight that age gaps don't protect against hardship. They just reconfigure it.
The older partner often provides a level of emotional stability, organizational wisdom, and life experience that a younger partner finds invaluable, especially when they're facing an unexpected crisis.
That idea of the older partner as a mentor or a rock is so crucial. Vicki Larson, the journalist who wrote about her experiences, details marrying her college professor, Alan. He was 26 years her senior.
And Alan was much more than a romantic interest. He was a strategic mentor. His guidance, his connections, they were instrumental in helping her launch a successful 40-year career in journalism.
The resources he offered weren't monetary, but professional and intellectual, which facilitated her rapid growth.
And Alan, with his greater life experience, offered this remarkable piece of foresight.
Right. Despite her desire to marry him, Alan correctly predicted that she would eventually feel the primal urge for children and likely seek out a more age-appropriate partner for that specific purpose.
Which she later did. He understood the trajectory of her life better than she did at the time.
Similarly, Jo, who is 30, relied entirely on her husband John, who is 70, as a complete rock during difficult life phases.
And Jo recognized that a man her own age wouldn't have been able to even comprehend her issues. John's age and his vast experience were key to providing that stable, understanding support. It was rooted in decades of wisdom.
Yet, despite this overwhelming evidence of genuine commitment, maturity, and support across these age differences, society remains obsessed with finding simple, quantifiable rules to justify its romantic boundaries.
Which leads us to our final point, the pervasive and often cited 25 myth.
The magical, culturally mandated age of 25. This is the critique of the cultural obsession with the idea that the prefrontal cortex,
Part of the brain responsible for impulse control, planning, judgment.
that it matures fully at exactly age 25.
The sources are unequivocal in their critique of this. They label this idea as junk science. We need to push back against this narrative because it's become a scientific-sounding excuse for social judgment.
It creates what's called an infantilizing impulse against young adults. By insisting on this biological marker, society tries to argue that anyone younger than 25 can't possibly form a mature, real, romantic, or sexual relationship.
And it's used to justify intense scrutiny on age gaps of any size, even small ones, if one partner is under that arbitrary threshold.
So let's just clarify the science. While the prefrontal cortex does undergo significant development throughout the late teens and early 20s, neuroscientists view maturity as a gradual process.
It's highly contextual, influenced heavily by environment, trauma, individual experience.
Not a sudden biological flip of a switch at 25.
Yeah.
Exactly. Brain development is a curve, not a cliff.
And the focus on 25 completely ignores the incredible variation in emotional maturity and capacity for commitment you see in a 22-year-old versus a 32-year-old versus a 52-year-old.
It's a convenient, seemingly scientific way to justify prejudice against unconventional pairings.
The reality is that our life stages are so segmented now. A century ago, the life trajectory of a 17-year-old might not have looked that different from someone in their early 30s. They might both be working, married, having children.
But today, a 22-year-old is often still in school and completely dependent, while a 42-year-old is established. The gap reflects circumstances and culture, not necessarily emotional or romantic capacity.
And that reliance on arbitrary markers of maturity completely ignores the human capacity for erotic nuance and complex self-sacrificing choices.
It's far easier for a politician like Senator Whaler with the cousins to label something as icky or gross than to accept that young adults are capable of making nuanced, often very difficult choices about who they love and what sacrifices they're willing to make.
So what does this all mean when we synthesize this vast spectrum of human experience? We've seen the sheer range of age gap love, from the glamorous yet judged celebrity couples,
To the couples fighting legal battles in Utah, to the cattle haulers defining love by their empty bank account, and the seniors radically redefining sexual liberation.
we've seen the dual nature of these relationships revealed in the sources. Internally, they can be profoundly transformative. They can offer purpose, stability, mentorship, intellectual growth.
Even saving lives, as we saw with the man who quit smoking after his heart attack. They fill a profound need that partners of a similar age often cannot.
But externally, they require significant adaptation and often immense, sustained sacrifices just to survive the public eye.
Liz gave up her entire lifestyle and family to live in a truck to 147. Emmy risks family shunning daily. The first cousins are staring down potential jail time.
Hattie had to emotionally amputate herself just to protect her heart from the pain of impermanence. Marion and Steve had to change their entire financial and emotional focus, stopping the purchase of large bottles of aftershave.
That is the ultimate trade-off this deep dive reveals. Age gap love often requires one or both partners, and it's typically the younger partner or the partner violating the strongest norms to bear these disproportionate external costs imposed by a judging society.
They're paying that tax we mentioned, just to keep the relationship viable.
So we have to ponder this final provocative thought for you to carry forward.
Is true ageless love really just about that initial chemistry and compatibility? Or is the defining feature of these successful pairings fundamentally the willingness to bear those extreme, disproportionate external sacrifices that society relentlessly imposes?
Because the commitment to a love that defies expectations often demands a parallel commitment to a life that defies easy acceptance. And that's a lesson that extends far beyond just the numbers in your relationship.